Hello, and welcome to I Wrote That, a podcast where we bring authors and industry experts together to discuss all things books. I am here with Claire Hardy. She is a life action coach, a motivational speaker, and now a best-selling Amazon author. How are you, Claire?
I'm doing good, thank you. How are you?
Good. I'm so proud to introduce you as an Amazon bestseller. How does it feel to be titled as that?
Still very surreal, I'll be honest, because I still see myself as a shy small town girl. So for me to be like up on the big books of kind of Amazon, it was still like a friend of mine had to tell me that I was on the list because I was not even like taking notice.
Oh, wow. That's very different than my approach to when I published my book. I was refreshing Amazon every 30 seconds. So there's two ends of the spectrum there, I think.
Once I knew about it, I was refreshing it quite often. And
Yeah.
even every hour, my dad was there asking me, where are you now? Where are you now?
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. So what was your process to getting to bestseller? Do you want to share a little bit?
Yeah. So actually, the book that I wrote is not the one I intended to write. So the book I was originally intending to write was a more of a motivational book. And I was struggling, I'll admit, to piece together all the elements that go into writing a book. And it just happened to occur to me that I have a lot of stories. I have been through an awful lot. And it soon became apparent that that is the book I should be writing. And it became very flawless. Like I was easily able to pick out the stories, to pick out the different themes, and it very much became more of an inspirational and a hope-giving kind of book.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say the key to getting the bestsellers is to categorize. That was, I think, the big thing that was drilled into me by my coach to say, be very specific with your category and to kind of, to get the pre-orders in so that then there's orders all go in at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of between the two, that's what helped me hit that status.
And how did you go about finding which categories were right for you?
So the first bit I looked into was kind of obviously this personal development, self-help, because that is in largely what my stories were about, what my stories were, and then the lessons, the stories, and then the lessons behind what the story has taught me. And it also got me into like a phrase of mine, which is never stop dreaming and believing.
Mm-hmm.
So I picked, there was a self-help general one, but then there was a self-help dreams one. And I'm very much into helping people go after their dreams, which is kind of where my life action coaching comes in. And it was in that category that I actually got the bestsellers in.
Awesome. Yeah. I think, I don't know like about you, but when I was searching my categories, because I totally 100% agree with you, categories is everything when it comes to Amazon. And that's the nice part about Amazon is that you're not pitted against every book that's on Amazon, which is in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of books on Amazon. You're pitted against the ones in your category. And I think that's really important distinction for aspiring authors to know. I personally recommend the tool KDP Rocket. It's very good categorization tool. You do have to buy it, but it's a fairly cheap membership and it's a lifetime membership. And that's how I selected all my categories. Unfortunately, it only does 3 regions. I'm not even sure if the UK is one of them. It was the US is the biggest one. And then Germany, of all places, was the other one. I was like, okay. But as a Canadian author, I had to dig a little bit harder. I did basically what you did. I did the manual search and finding the categories and stuff like that. But yeah, that's really good advice on the part of your coach. And so you did work with a book coach to get your book out. And like you kind of mentioned, you started on the path of another book And was it him that was like, hey, you might have something else going on here?
It, he was one of them. There was two people that was kind of advocating for me to be telling my stories. It was my original coach that started to get me to collect my stories as a fun challenge. He literally was just like, it would be fun. He's found it fun, so he figured, why not I try it out as well? But whenever we were showing up every week, or even sometimes twice a week with my book coach, he was like, all I hear is your struggles for writing this original book. But whenever I talk to you elsewhere, all I hear is inspirational stories.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you not writing about that?
Yeah.
And at first I was like, well, I don't need to do that. No, that's not me. And it was about 2 days later that I ended up just kind of having these feelings inside me where I was like, oh, that story would be really good. Oh, and that one, and then this one. And all of a sudden, I started to feel the chills from my own book idea, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the title kind of came fairly quickly, actually. Sometimes they say, the book title isn't always the first thing that you actually do. Sometimes it's the bulk of the book.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's where one-to-one came from, because I wanted it to have that one-to-one feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And if I was felt inspired and hopeful, despite that it was my own story, when I try and read it back, I try and see it from like an outer's point of view as much as you can. And then my coach said, well, why don't you just do 121 stories then? And I went, that's genius. Where did you come up with that?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's the marks of a good coach that can help you along like that. So how did you come across, like, how did you make the decision that you wanted to hire a book coach and this is the road you wanted to go down?
And so it definitely was not on the cards for this year. At the beginning of this year, this was not one of my goals in the slightest. My goal was to become a coach because I had been made redundant last year. And my coach that originally set this collecting stories challenge says, the best thing you could do for your brand is to have a book. It's seen as an authority kind of figure. It's seen as, something that's proven pudding, or something that you've done, you've experienced. And I said, I'm not really sure. And he got me on a call with this book coach. And I thought, I'm not really much of a writer. I do like maths and numbers and analytics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I just it took about a month of convincing me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd done some really good work with my coaches, and I was just like, you know what, let's just see what it's about. Who knows? Maybe, like, I was thinking on writing a book, but like later down the years. And I just thought, well, maybe, I can at least collect the knowledge, take away the tools that they give me. I wrote loads of notes throughout all the sessions, and it'll come in handy when I get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
Little did I know that they were going to be kicking my butt quite so much, and to be like, no, you're going to write it like now during this course. And I'm like, but I don't even know I have no book in my head right now.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I was like, okay, let's think, what could I write on?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I could motivate people. I'm pretty good at doing that. And that's kind of where I started leading.
That's awesome. Yeah. I think, the brand identity and the authority that you talked about, like as a book coach myself, that's what I hinge everything on is, my tagline is boost your business with a book, but it's really boost your brand with a book,
Mm-hmm.
because that credibility that comes with having a book and the to tack bestseller on top of it is just everything. And it goes so far, and you can use a book in so many ways when it comes to your business. It's a lead magnet. It's a brand identifier. It's a credibility booster. It's a public speaking platform. It's all of these amazing things. And so you mentioned that you are a motivational speaker. Have you been using your book as a kind of a platform? Have you gotten to that point yet?
So it was the other way round.
Okay.
So because I joined Toastmasters, and from this fun challenge of collecting stories, I started using my stories to talk about at Toastmasters. And it was in February, March of this year that I started using my own stories in my speeches at Toastmasters. Before that, I hadn't used my stories. And the feedback that I got was, I mean, this is someone who ran out of her university presentation and fainted.
Oh, no.
So speaking is not me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was the narrative that used to go through my head. So to receive all the feedback and the commendation, as well as the recommendations, I was still a novice, but that was really the turning curve to then my coach reminding me of the feedback that I had got from Toastmasters, to then to say, but look how you impacted them with one story.
Mm-hmm. And I think the beautiful part about your book being a collection of stories is that you have so many opportunities to resonate with someone and so many opportunities to connect with them, because I'm imagining you cover a lot of different topics and a lot of different things in 121 stories?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot to go through with someone, right? And that's very powerful because some stories might not connect with people. They might not have a relatability point, but others might hit home and might be really good. So that's very powerful. You mentioned earlier you struggled in the beginning. You went in with an idea and, you wanted to be the motivational kind of a thing and line it up with your coaching business. And, but that it wasn't working for you. So I guess what tips do you have for writers when writer's block is at an all-time high and it's just not working for them?
So I guess the key is to really know yourself. And that has been a big learning curve for me this year. There's a difference between just having a writer's block for like that day and something not feeling like it was the right time. So the motivational book is something that I still really want to do. So it'll be on the cards. But since they were so kind of into getting you into action and getting you to be writing your book like there and then and now, that's what then switched me to be like, okay, this is going to be a book that takes me longer to do. It requires me to do more research, more thinking power. And since like I said, I wasn't really in the brain or thinking space of actually writing the book when I first was kind of initially brought up to the subject. That's what then helped me switch, because I thought, well, I've already written down all my stories. They're in my story bank book. So literally it was a case of reading through that book and picking out the stories that I thought would have the impact. Mm-hmm. So it was, the writer's block comes even like on days where, once I had picked it, and the honest answer is just to stop. And I know that might sound controversial because they're normally like, work through it. But I honestly did better when I listened to myself. And if it just wasn't coming that time, then it just wasn't the right time. Mm-hmm. And there was then a time that I wrote for, I think, 2.5 hours straight, because I just felt inspired. I had my hot chocolate next to me, and off I went.
That's awesome.
So the biggest tip really there is to listen to yourself, to to really get in tune with, are you just having a moment that you need to have 5 minutes away, or is it just not your day, because we all have off days.
Yeah, I think that's really important to be able to distinguish between, there's different kinds of writer's block too. There's the writer's block where you're sitting there and you want to write, but you don't know what to write. And it's more of a creative block. And then there's the writer's block that's like, this isn't right for me. This isn't what I need to be writing in this moment or in this story at all. And I think that's really powerful for new writers and experienced writers, because experienced writers can get into this spot where it's like, well, I wrote one book. Why can't I write the second? Like, what is holding me up? And it could just be a question of, is this the right story right now? And like you said, you want to get to your motivational story. And so that story is still, like you said, in the bank for you. It just wasn't the right time.
Yeah.
Something
and I actually have, for creative blocks, one thing that my coach helped me do, he said, if you really want to write, but you just don't think anything's coming right the right time, is literally just write out another random story. It was a beautiful sunny day, and you could just make up a complete random story, but sometimes that's actually enough to get your brain to be switched off from the, I must write the perfect words right here, right now. And that was one of I started like naming the things that were around me. So like, on my wall here, I've got some butterflies. So I literally started writing about what was in my surroundings. And that was enough to at least get me writing. And then halfway through that story, normally I'd be like, oh, I know exactly what to write now.
Yeah. Very powerful, very powerful. And you mentioned that your story came from a collection of journaling that you had already done. And I kind of wanted to touch on, like, when you're coming up against a book, especially a book where like a nonfiction book where you're retelling facts or you're telling personal, like true events, there's like a couple of common ways you can do that. And journaling is absolutely one of them. And it's probably the most beautiful one, because when you're writing raw, right? You're not writing for anyone to see it, and you're writing for yourself. And that type of writing is so personal, because you're not worried about the judgments of others, because it's not for anyone else. And so I think that's really beautiful that you were able to take your 121 stories or more and bring it to the world. When you did that, what kind of editing went into that process for you?
Not much. Because I kind of did it in like a twofold. So the first thing I did was to write all of the 121 story titles out. So I knew, and then the first phase is I literally just wrote the first kind of couple of sentences for each of the stories. And then bit by bit, I then did go through it in chronological order of writing each one out in full. And then, so I tried not to feel too emotional when I was writing it, but when I was reading it back, that would be the telltale sign of whether it had the right words or not, just because I didn't want to be like a complete blubbering wreck. Because some of the stories are tough. My teenage years were not the easiest, and I'm not saying that just because teens can be difficult or anything. It's because I went through an awful lot of trauma. So I wanted to, in a way, I had to shut off one part of me emotionally so that I could then write so openly about it. And then when I read them back, quite often I would get tearful, and then I'd be like, that's okay. But I got a team of about seven people to proofread certain chapters of mine. So they range from my book coach read one chapter, my other half read another, but a few others were people that weren't in my immediate circle.
Mhm.
And sometimes I gave them more personal, emotional stories, because I felt like sometimes if someone's close to you and I want them to not necessarily critique it, but to come at it from a place that it obviously is good as a reader, I felt that they would then just get too lost in the emotion and not in kind of the editing, the proofreading that I was wanting their assistance with.
Mm-hmm. And beta readers, so kind of what you're describing, are so important in the process. And I'm with you on the other half comment, because my other half also reads majority of my work, and his opinion is so valued. Like, I value it so much, because of course he's going to toot my horn. Oh, this is the best thing you've ever written. But also, he's constructive, and he's just the right amount of critical for the job. And I think that's so important to have. And I like that your book coach was involved in it as well, in the editing process. Like, I know with my clients, I'm the developmental editor for the book. So, I read it a couple of times, and it's just so important to have other people's opinions on it, because kind of like what you said, you can get lost in it when it's yourself, and you can let your own emotions come over it. And the hard part about rereading your work is that your mind fills in the blanks. And so having a beta reader come in and be like, I don't like, this story didn't hit with me because it felt like it was missing something. And that's because in your mind, nothing's missing, but in someone else's, they don't know the whole story. So you're really checking for that. Yeah, I think that's really powerful. Yeah, absolutely great. So what tips do you like, what's one golden nugget we can take from you for aspiring authors that want to go down this journey but aren't sure where to get started?
I would definitely say the accountability group is what kept me on track, because me and this other guy, Bignesh, who was on the same path as I was, just writing his first book. There was a couple of others that I'd written before, and we got into a friendly competition. And even when our book coach was busy, we still had our sessions online, and we still conducted them, gave advice, feedback, everything. So even when nobody else was showing up, both of us was there, competing with how far we've got, competing with how many words we've done. And he finished his book before me, but I'm going to let that slide. But I was out for a month with COVID, so I kind of feel like not too bad. But that friendly competition and accountability was what helped me get back on track after COVID, because I'd finished most of the writing before I got COVID. And I did struggle for a bit. My energy certainly was at a very dipped level for a lot longer, even after I was testing negative. And that's when I stopped doing so much of the writing, even though I hadn't finished, and I just started reading my own work. And that's when I then started giving out to the others. And I think having his support, getting back into the swing of things, as well as before, was what helped me keep going and getting to that finish line.
I think that's really important, the accountability partner piece, because I know when I wrote my first book, writing a book can feel very isolating when you're going through it. And you can get demotivated when you come up against writer's block, because you don't know how to get through it and you don't know what the next step is. And it's a foreign feeling if you're a first-time writer. And having that accountability partner to come in and give you those prompts that you were talking about, like, well, let's try writing about something else, or why don't you try and teach me, write me something, a little instruction manual that's going to teach me about something, or whatever the case might be, just to get you out of your own head and to keep you on track and to sympathize with what you're going through, because especially in the nonfiction genre, like what you did, you're going to need someone to lean on and and feel supported, because writing a book can be isolating. And that's like my most important piece, is that it doesn't have to be
Yeah,
if you
absolutely.
reach out. Yeah.
It's just like, and one thing that I did subconsciously, I'm very much cheerleading other people. I just have a natural thing to encourage, to inspire, to help other people. I love it. And because in a way I'd done, in inverted commas, the hard work before I got unwell, I was cheering them on. I was always saying, oh, you did 10 minutes? That's great. You kept up and did 10 minutes. You know what? Tomorrow, I bet you'll do more.
Mm-hmm.
Don't beat yourself up. And that came back to me tenfold when I got unwell. They started giving it back to me. And I think that's the art of building that, even if it was just between two people, that kind of community sort of spirit of, supporting one another. I mean, he was writing a fiction book, I was writing nonfiction. So even though our topics sort of overlapped, we were very fortunate that in our group, nobody was as such competing on a category sort of scale. So I don't know if that helped, but we never saw it as one versus the other. It was always, we'll build each other up, and every single time we would just keep helping each other keep going, even when like someone was going through their exams at the same time as writing this book. And we're like, it's okay, your deadline's after us, don't worry that you're not at our level, because we were doing it more full-time than they were, obviously. And yeah, that really is what got me back onto finishing the book. Not that I didn't think I wouldn't, but sorry. It just, there was a time where I was like, I'll just let it, go by the wayside for a little bit. And, it doesn't matter if I don't hit my original deadline. And I even surprised myself, because I got it done before my original deadline. So
that's awesome. That's a sign of a good goal. Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. So do you have anything where, in the last couple of minutes here, do you have anything you want to offer the readers?
Yes. So I am actually putting together a document.
Listeners, not readers, listeners. I forgot what category we're in here. Sorry, go ahead.
So yes, for the listeners, I'm actually putting together a document that is summarizing over 50 personal development books from the likes of Eckhart Tolle, Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, to name just a few. And I am putting together a summary document, because I think sometimes when we get into this sort of personal development, even as authors, we sometimes don't want to go and buy out all the different books. We just want the key nuggets. And that's what I've done. I'm in the process at the moment, but by the time this goes live, it will have been finished, completed. And so that's what I'm going to gift to your listeners to read.
That's great. And that's going to be available on your website, which I'll link in the show notes. And that's how people can reach you as well, because you are a life action coach as well. So if anybody's looking to work with you, I'm assuming the website is the place to go to start that journey.
Yes. Yeah, it's got all the links for all my social medias. It's got any webinars that I generally do on a fairly consistent basis, and links to the book, obviously, but also to this freebie, but also to my newsletter and all sorts of goodness.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Claire, and giving us all those amazing tips and the insights and everything. And congratulations on hitting bestseller again.